You know, I've played a lot of Elsword on this channel, and off this channel, and in a house and with a mouse, but not in a box and not with a fox. Mother foxers. Mostly, though, I play player versus enemy and not so much player versus player. Why? I'll just leave that to your imagination.
But there's a crap ton of variety of dungeons in Elsword, from caves to cities in the sky to forests to, yes, even the bottom of the sea. Ariel, is that you?
But all dungeons have visuals, music, and mobs, so I'm going to pick on those things to criticize about the various dungeons. And since 5 and 10 are just so passé, 5 and 10, I'm going to choose the top 7 success win dungeons, and I'm not going to pick on secret dungeons because, well, they're secret dungeons. Extremely urgent warning. Some of these dungeons have been revamped in Korea, but given that I don't have a Korean account and I'm not so Korean-y, I can't look at those. So these are all based on the pre-revamped versions. With all that said, here's the top 7 dungeons in Elsword.
Number 7. Heart of the Ancient Waterway. Enter into the ancient sealed channels of Hamel, prefaced by a small underground cave leading out into the glorious daylight to guide you along a path to one of the coolest and most well-developed mid-town bosses. The visuals here are somewhat reused, but put together in a brand new way. When you start out, you appear in a place almost akin to Sunken Resium, though not quite underwater, simply in the ancient channels. The music here is the same as in Sunken Resium, and, though it doesn't fit as well here as it did there, it still sets the tone very nicely before the party moves on. As you progress through the dungeon, you exit the underground and come into the sunlight, much like the ancient waterway level was, even using the same music and textures. However, this area is kicked up a notch even from the ancient waterway, showing new areas and new mobs that were either absent or less common in previous stages. There's even neat little mechanics, such as the giant gears rolling down the channel, which can hit either players or enemies. Stupid enemies. The mobs here are largely reused, including the cockatrigal, the sentinels, and the linkers. Still, they're utilized well, keeping mobs in areas that suit them well. This dungeon also utilizes the shadow snipers much better, and much to the annoyance of many players. Plus, this stage gets huge bonus points for not including any actual underwater segments. Next up, number 6. Halls of Water. Yeah, you knew this was coming. Halls of Water is an excellent end to the exploration of Hamel, despite the fact that some of its components are lacking. The mobs in this dungeon have been largely reused, basically every variety of shadow creature you've already seen. There's a notable addition of the Fallen Red Knights, but despite their awesomeness, they're not that common and thus a bit underwhelming. However, the fact that you get to fight a metric crap ton of Hamel bosses as mini-bosses more than makes up for this. The ambiance here is fantastic. Though the walls and such are very similarly textured throughout, the detail of the backgrounds is incredible and the lighting adjusts each part of the level you enter. Neat components such as elevators between levels, sliding doorways, and so on really brings this level to life. One part of the level, while fighting a mini-boss, even takes place on a platform floating down a water current. This dungeon uses 2 pieces of music, both of which are unique to the stage. The first is a bit more upbeat and cheerful and introduces you to the ambiance of the halls. The second takes place as you go further in, and it fits the feeling of going further into the rabbit hole, with a great fight waiting you at the end. Overall, a great stage complete with unique music and visuals. Number 5. Altar of Dedication. The Altar of Dedication is a place of great power that Bertha sought out in order to open a portal into the demon realm. It might surprise you to find this higher rank than Halls of Water, but I promise there's a good reason. Please, don't leave yet. It's okay. Like previous dungeons in this list, it reuses a fair number of mobs. Enemies from pretty much every previous Fated dungeon appear here, from thunderflies to stone gargoyles. You know, the stupid little shits that like to hit themselves with their own flails. Anyway, as a result, they seem to fit in well with the mini-bosses who, like in other final dungeons, are the bosses from the previous dungeons. This dungeon's visuals are similar to previous stages, but unique too. Though they re-employ several wall textures and the like, they also carry details like colored orbs atop the walls, and the windows lead to a view of the altar itself, a stunning marvel in the background, as well as a brilliant teal pit of doom below. I wonder where that goes. It also employs little jiggly door seals instead of actual doors, to continue to the next level. But just how is this better than the halls? Well, this dungeon really wins out with its musical score. Even though the Halls of Water dungeon has 2 pieces rather than just 1, neither is as stunning or as powerful as the Altar of Dedication music. I mean, just listen to this. Bask in its glory. The soundtrack is stunning, powerful, and all around unique. It complements the visuals and battles well, and leads you through one of the most stunning dungeons in the game with a furious vigor that is found in few other places. Number 4. MAGMANTA'S Cave. I hate spiders. Anyone who watches this channel knows I hate spiders. So it would seem odd that I would choose to pick a dungeon almost entirely composed of spiders. But oddly, I find it to be one of this dungeon's strong points. The mobs here are hugely original and match up with the dungeon very well. Given that this is MAGMANTA'S Cave, it makes sense that you get to see a ton of MAGMANTA'S, well, children all throughout the dungeon. There's also a new exploding girl, the Hagalaz, which has no hesitation in cursing you and allows me to curse right back at her. The uniqueness of the mobs doesn't stop there though. There are also odd little capsules that you can destroy which contain either missing red knights, which will fight for you, or one of MAGMANTA'S icky spider babies which will try and tear your face into shreds. The mobs are also placed very neatly. In some segments, to obscure the linearity of the stage, you actually go into the background to fight mobs. While this doesn't look so impressive as a solo player, it looks very cool seeing half of your party fighting behind you as you carry on valiantly forward. The music here is also quite nice. It uses 2 pieces of original music, one of which was considered good enough to become the theme used in the Temple of Trial's secret dungeon. Each fits the atmosphere well, going from the serenity of entering the water temple to the mystery and odd, enigmatic nature of the inner temple. Last but not least, in fact I'd say most, is the visual ambiance of the dungeon. In time with the music, you start outside the water temple and immediately enter inside, surrounded by falling water and the vastness of the inner segment of the temple, lined with pillars and crystals in the background. Even the concept art for this dungeon is beautiful, showing a myriad of details and environment. As you get further in, you work your way through giant stone doors and get deeper into the temple, and the environment simply changes around you to suit the progression. There's even an awesome cutscene where the mini-boss destroys a bridge you're working your way across, leaving you to fall to the spiders below. This is an excellent and unique dungeon and adds a very nice touch to Hamel. Number 3. Trog's Lair. Okay, no fluffy intro crap here. I'll start with the meh. The music here is nothing the bards would ever sing about. It's unique, like all Sander dungeons, but honestly, it's one of the less impressive themes. This is honestly quite odd to me, given the excellent ambiance that this dungeon provides. You start in kind of a plain-looking desert, but are given an excellent view of the actual lair in the background as you walk through a giant rock tunnel with sand falling around you. You eventually descend into the lair itself, able to see the hell that awaits you below. The view that this descent provides is one of the most stunning visuals in the game, in my opinion, and the close-ups in each level don't disappoint, right down to the final floor through pools of poison. The mobs don't disappoint either. Though they're familiar from previous levels, they fit right in. While one could argue that the reuse of them here seems lazy, I'd argue the opposite. If anything, the use of Trogs outside of the lair is lazy. This is their home, where they actually belong, and they're actually stronger here, providing a realistic challenge after the horror of the harpies seen in previous levels. The absolute best part of this dungeon, though? There's this one floor with a million gajillion kazillion spawns of enemies. You can literally sit here and just get kill after kill after kill. While it might be a bit challenging alone, you can still get combo scores in the 300s or higher without even trying, simply because there's so many enemies to outright destroy. To me, it's the most fulfilling combat event in the entire game. While it's not the perfect dungeon, it provides some excellent visuals, great dungeon floors, an awesome battle, and is unique enough to land 3rd in the list of top Elsword dungeons. Number 2. Heart of the Behemoth. The Heart of the Behemoth is currently the final dungeon in the game wherein the players chase down Karis once and for all to take on her true form and defeat her. I know that I would have had an angry mob after me had I not included this dungeon in the top 7, and with good reason. The visuals of this dungeon are absolutely astounding. They're brand new, and though the dungeon takes place in a cave in a desert, it's unlike any seen before. The entire feeling of this dungeon is something that's brand new to the player at this point. Quite honestly, it doesn't seem like Sander. It seems like something entirely of its own right. Maybe like a Zerg base. I will say that a lot of mobs are reused here, but it's not bothersome. There's so much variety here in the Trogs and others that any reused or palette swapped enemies are totally forgivable. Not to mention there's some brand new tentacle porn for anyone who's into that stuff. I won't judge. My favorite part of this dungeon though is the music. It is my absolute favorite track in the game. Come on, let's hear it. Come on, play it. Need I say more? It's brilliantly moody, very catchy, more rhythmic than a bongo drum, and suits the dungeon perfectly. It's obviously unique to the Heart of the Behemoth, and rightfully so. It's an absolute masterpiece that brings this incredible dungeon to an epic high. And the number 1 Elsword dungeon is... SANDTILUS. Good geez, jujubes, I think I just wet myself thinking of how exciting this stage is. This dungeon takes place atop the wind-powered ships in pursuit of the Behemoth to the waiting succubus queen Charis. And oh boy, this is an incredible pursuit. The ambiance is perfect. Sand blows around you and blows you around constantly throughout the fight as you jump from platform to platform on the ships. At any time, you can peer into the sandstorm of a background and look at the great Behemoth itself walking alongside your ship. The ships also look very cool, lined with gold and brilliant colors, and show you their moving parts, engines, and all. As you traverse through the ships, you can even see the cannons firing at the Behemoth in the background, which fully places you in the idea that this is an all-out battle where only one team will survive. The mobs are generally normal-ish, but also introduce the Bomber Lord, the pinnacle of all things that annoy me, the Incubus and Succubus enemies, all of which are very neat. The stage also introduces a couple of mob challenges on the way, one in which you have to protect an engine while being attacked by spawning mobs, and another in which you actually have to fire cannons at the Behemoth while fending off enemies. These little events, in addition to everything going on around you, are icing on the cake to make this level all the more immersive. Last, but not least, the musical score is awesome. While it doesn't suit my personal taste in music, its intensity fits the dungeon and situation perfectly, and keeps you fully engaged in the battle going on. This music is honestly professional movie-grade quality and really ties the entire atmosphere of this dungeon together. Pretty much every dungeon on this list had at least one nitpick that let me poke a bit at it, but honestly, SANDTILUS has none. It has epic music, epic visuals, epic mobs, and epic events during the dungeon itself. It's everything a dungeon should be. And so there, that's the top 7 dungeons in Elsword, those that presented good visuals, music, and mobs. If you can think of a better one, well, that's great. Leave me a comment and let me know, because I don't think I missed any, but I guess I could have, you know. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. If you want to check out some other videos, there's another editorial on the left, or some Let's Plays on the right. I bet one of those would entertain you, right? And until the next video, guys, I'll see you later.